Hey everybody, you're back with me for Customary unit with conversions, and today we're going to talk about capacity. So let's go over what capacity is, what does it look like, and how do we make conversions. So let's hop right into it. Capacity. This is the amount of space that something can take up or something can hold. I usually tell people to think about it with liquid and how much volume something can take. So, for example, like think of fish bowls, think of if you were to talk about big stuff, think about swimming pools, small stuff, think about stuff you drink, like sodas, milk, things of that nature. So, for capacity, unfortunately, with our customary units, we have one, two, three, four, five. We have 5 units we must know. And I have them listed out here with the smallest all the way up to the largest. So our smallest is going to be our fluid ounces, like you saw yesterday, and our largest is going to be gallons. So how much is each one of these things worth? Well, I'm going to go from my smallest one, and I'm going to work my way up to my biggest one, and we're just kind of stair step it. So what this is saying is that you have, and unfortunately, just like yesterday, there's not going to be, like what did we do yesterday? Length? Yes, length. There's not going to be any standard numbers at all. It's all going to be weird. Good today that at least they're going to be divisible by 2, but I think yesterday was also, but it's weird numbers. So let's get into it. And we're going to make our flow chart as we go. So in 1 cup, there is going to be 8 fluid ounces. So if I want to go from cups to fluid ounces, I need to multiply by 8. If I want to go from fluid ounces to cups, I need to divide by 8. Now let's go to our cups to pints. There is 2 cups and 1 pint. So that means to go from cups to pints, I'm going to be multiplying by 2. And if I'm going from if I'm going from pints to cups, I'm multiplying by 2. If I'm going from cups to pints, I'm dividing by 2. Notice there's a pattern. Whatever you're doing on the top, you're going to increase or multiply by a certain number. And the same number is repeated at the bottom, but you're going to be dividing. If we're going from pints to quarts, there's 2 pints and 1 quart. So if you're going from pints to quarts, you're going to have to divide by 2. If you're going from quarts to pints, you're going to have to multiply by 2. And the very last one is quarts. That one's a little bit more standard. You're probably used to seeing cups and quarts and fluid ounces and gallons, but pints is kind of a weird one in today's society. You will see it, but not as much. But there's 4 quarts and 1 gallon. So to go from a quart to a gallon, you got to divide by 4. Or a gallon to a quart, you got to multiply by 4. So we have a flow chart that we're going to be able to reference, but unfortunately, it's going to have some weird numbers thrown in there. You're going to see why I like metrics so good sometime early next week. So let's get into a couple of practice problems. Oop, there we go. I'm going to kind of have it zoomed out for it. It's going to be a little bit hard to see, but I want you to be able to see the flow chart and the problem. So for number 1, it's saying we're going from quarts to cups. So if I was to put a dot where we're starting, quarts, it's harder to see, but over here, look back at the flow chart, and we're going to cups. I want you to think in your head, are we going to take the blue numbers to get there, looking at those arrows? Are we going to take the pink arrows? And if you're looking at which way the arrows are going, we're actually going to take the blue ones. So that's saying that I need to figure out how many, let's go back, how many pints are in 3 quarts and how many pints are in 3 quarts and how many cups are in that many pints. So to figure out this problem, I'm going to have to do 3, because that's what we're start with, times quart to pint, times 2 to figure out how many pints are in a quart, and then times another 2 to figure out how many pints are in that cup. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. So I get the answer of 12. So you got to think about which way you're going and which, you're going to be dividing or multiplying. So the next one, 8 quarts. Okay, I'm starting at quarts. And I'm going to gallons this way. So think in your head, am I going to need to follow the blue arrows or am I following the pink arrows? I say pink arrows, I mean the pink numbers or the blue numbers. I'm actually going to follow the pink stuff because I need to travel this way. So what do I need to do? To go from quarts to gallons, I need to do a divider by 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. That means there's 2 gallons in 8 quarts. Now what I want you to do is I want you to try to do the last 2 and see what you get. So go ahead and pause the video, work out number 3 and number 4 and see what you get. Now that you're back, I'm assuming you at least tried it, or hopefully you tried it. So let's talk about what you're doing and which way you're going. I'm actually going to change this pink because I think it might have been confusing some students. I'll change it to red. So you're going from fluid ounces to pints. Fluid ounces to pints. Do I need to follow the blue arrows? Or do I need to follow the pink arrows? And based off the numbers, I need to follow the pink. So that means I'm going to have to divide twice. Division is like subtraction. You can't do really 2 in one step very well. So I like to do 32 divided by 8. Okay, what does that give me? That gives me 4. So that means there is 4. That means there is 4 cups in 32 fluid ounces, but I'm not trying to stop at cups. I'm trying to go to pints, so I need to go over here. So I need to divide that by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So there is 2 pints in 32 ounces. And from gallons to cups, I have that red dot I can't remove, I'm sorry. If I try to erase it, it's going to erase. Oh, no, it did let me. Cool. Even better. Guess it works better than my whiteboard sometimes. Now I'm going from gallons, oh my gosh, all the way to cups. All the way to cups. That's going to take a lot of blue jumps. So I could go one at a time. I could say, which I will for this one. I'm not going to write it out because I'm going to run out of space, but I know that 2 times 4 is 8. The reason I'm starting with 2 is because I have 2 gallons. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32, so there's 32 cups. Now let's get into a customary unit of weight, and because I won't need to go back to the first page, I can zoom in for this one. And we're going to start with our smallest, which is our ounces. This is not fluid ounces. This is ounces like you're weighing something up like on a scale. You are not figuring out the volume of it. You're figuring out how heavy it is. That's something that students get confused a lot. The weight is how heavy something is that's affected by gravity. So if you were to go on a scale, the volume of something could be the same. So you could have a volume of 1 gallon, but 1 gallon of motor oil is going to weigh more than 1 gallon of something thin like water. So weight is the scale, volume is the space. So let's get into the ounce is your smallest and the ton is your largest. There is 16 ounces in 1 pound. There is 2,000 pounds in 1 ton. Or if you really want to think about it, to go from the very smallest one to the very biggest one, there is 32,000 ounces in 1 ton. Luckily, unfortunately, we have some strange numbers, but luckily for us, our flow chart is very small. There's only three weights that you need to know, so there's only going to be 3 things on your flow chart. Much easier. So I'm going from pounds to tons. Remember, these are going to be my blue numbers and arrows, and the bottom ones are going to be, I'll say purple for this one, changing it up some. So if I'm going from pounds to tons, I'm not going to need to use the blue times 2,000. I'm actually going to need to use the purple divided by 2,000. So, oh, that's a big number. That's hard. No, don't overthink it. There's 3 zeros here you can cross out. There's 3 zeros here. What's 14 divided by 2? That's 7. Number 2, I'm going from pounds to ounces. And once you understand the flow chart or how to use it, you're just got to figure out the direction and figure out if you're multiplying or dividing. Well, if I'm moving that way, I'm going to be multiplying by 16. So I got to figure out what is 5 times 16. I could break it up. This is a good example of distributive property. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 10 is 50. 50 plus 30 is 80. So that means that there is 80 ounces in 5 pounds. And those are 2 really good example problems. Now, just to make sure that we understand the flow chart, or flow charts, looking on page 3, you're going to have the capacity, which we did today, and the weight, which we did today. But the length is what we did yesterday. So if you struggle with it or you're finding yourself having problems, go back to the video I did yesterday on the day 53, and that should help alleviate any kind of problems or issues that you have. But take some time, work it out. If you struggle with it, look, I have another supplemental video that's going to be going up with this post. So look at that video also. Reach out to students that are in your class. Maybe they can help you out. And if all that fails, you can always reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to help you the best way I can. Please make sure to like the video to show that you watched it till the end, and stick with me because we have one more day of online foldables.